A long, long time ago, in a studio apartment not so far away.
There we go.
Hey.
Beautiful.
The Weird Alphabet.
Jon Bailey, everyone.
Woo! Episode 162. The Saga Begins.
Turmoil has engulfed the World Wide Web. The deliberation of the true Star Wars fans are in dispute. Hoping to resolve the matter with an ultimatum, the extremist fans have stopped referring to the Phantom Menace as Star Wars canon. While the internet endlessly debates the alarming amount of sudden ruined childhoods, Supreme Chancellor Tesserelk has secretly dispatched two Jedi Knights, David and Michael, to uncover the truth through the musical works of Weird Al Yankovic, a Jedi master of parody and Hawaiian shirt enthusiast. Joining them on their journey is Dan, their protocol droid, and Queen Andrew Frola, self-proclaimed monarch of every planet with a Q in its name. Together they formed the Weird Alphabet podcast, covering every Weird Al song in alphabetical order. They set off to the nearby planet of Burbank, California to see whether or not they could bring back balance with The Saga Begins.
What they didn't know is that there was a whole bunch of technical difficulties that kept standing in the way, and that's really what brought us down.
That's okay. They won't hear that in the actual
Can you
release.
imagine if we had a spaceship?
All right.
We had to take care of it.
We would be dead.
All right, this is where we need your help. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
It's the Weird Alphabet. Misa name is
Jar Binks.
Today's song, The Saga Begins. Woo! All right.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. You are listening to the Weird Alphabet podcast, the only podcast to talk about Weird Al songs in alphabetical order. We are here talking about, of course, The Saga Begins, a parody of American Pie off of the 1999 album Running with Scissors. I always doubt myself. And of course, we are here live in Burbank, California with this wonderful audience. I am shocked that there are people with human faces who listen to this podcast. Before we get any further, though, we do need to give a big round of applause to Tony for doing some awesome narration. That was Tony, right?
Yeah. Tony Goldmark. Thank you, Tony.
Welcome.
You deserve a Tony Award.
Welcome, everybody, to the show.
fire
You know,
you
when
next
we
week.
first started doing this podcast, I was like, I am so excited. By the time we get to Saga Begins, we're going to be able to do a live show, and we're going to get Ahmed Best with us. It's going to happen, you guys. And here he... Oh, no.
No. That'd be great.
We do have Andrew in a Jar Jar Binks
Yeah,
mask. We
that's
could do
close
that.
enough.
Yeah,
that's Ahmed Best.
Oh god, it smells like. Well, don't worry about it. It smells.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we should start with our regular introductions. Dan,
Hi.
what did you hear first? American Pie or Saga Begins?
I heard American Pie first.
Andrew?
American Pie.
Michael?
I heard The Saga Begins first.
Okay, I was hoping I wasn't going to be the only one, because I definitely heard The Saga Begins first.
Yeah.
And I have a really funny story about that I will get to.
Are we going to ask the audience, though?
Yes, I want to ask the audience. So, should we do this in typical Weird Alphabet style, where they just shout out their answers at the same time?
What?
No?
You would just say...
Who
Yeah,
heard
what
what?
did you hear?
Make
Did you
some
hear
noise
this?
if you heard American Pie first. Make some noise if you heard Saga Begins first. Not too surprising, but I'm glad we're not alone, Michael.
Do we have other Alaskans out there? Is that what happened?
Is that what it is? Is being from Alaska means you've never heard American Pie?
We only had like 3 radio stations.
Wait, did you have a radio station that was just dedicated to Weird Al? in
Radio
Alaska?
Disney?
Oh, Radio Disney.
No. We didn't even
They
have
had a
that.
radio
we had to get the
station for
CDs
elk
for
calls.
that.
What?
Well,
You had a radio station for elk calls.
We did.
24 hours.
I want to ask you guys before we get into the song, though. What is your guys' like history with Star Wars? Are you guys big Star Wars fans?
I've heard of it.
Just heard of it?
I know
It's all right.
of it.
We'll touch on this a little bit later, but The Saga Begins really rung home with me because episode 1 was like my first Star Wars movie that I saw ever.
I know for me it wasn't my first Star Wars movie, but that was I think I saw the original trilogy too young, and so I didn't I liked it, but I didn't get super into it. And then Phantom Menace hit, and 8-year-old me was so in love with that movie. And I am still in love with that movie. I know we're going to get into it. Phantom Menace is not great, you guys, but it's good. I like it. It's got a pod race. It's got Darth Maul. There's some cool scenes in it.
And no matter what your feelings are about the pod racing, it did spark one of the best N64 racing games.
That's true.
Just saying.
That game is
True.
fantastic.
Absolutely true. Yes, that deserves an applause.
Yeah. Honestly, I think I would not be a Weird Al fan if I wasn't a Star Wars fan first, because and if there wasn't already 5,000 podcasts about Star Wars out there, I would probably try to be on the stage doing a Star Wars podcast right now.
And this is the closest you've got.
But this is the closest I'm ever gonna get. No, but seriously, this song is what I credit as my first Weird Al song. This is the first I probably heard. I feel like I heard like Spam or Fat beforehand, but this is really the song that I was like, who is this magical human being? I need to know more. This is the greatest thing that has ever happened in my life. I remember being at summer camp the summer after this song came out and hearing somebody sing it at summer camp and asking me about it. I'm like, oh, that's so amazing. What's it called? And somebody says, Saga Begins. Got home at the end of the week, immediately looked up the song and printed out the lyrics so I could memorize the lyrics. I hadn't heard American Pie, though, and so I didn't think to actually listen to the song. I just wanted to know the lyrics and go off of my memory of people singing it randomly at camp. And so for about 2 years, I would sing that song constantly to the wrong tune because I had never gone out of my way to actually figure out what the tune was. I wish I could remember what the tune was, and I definitely wouldn't sing it right now if I did. But
And
yeah.
to this day, David is still not listening
I
to
still
American Pie.
haven't. I still haven't listened to Saga Begins. It's just a made-up tune in my head. Yeah. I don't know. Do you guys have first memories of Saga Begins?
Oh, goodness. Oh, wait, the song?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No.
Well,
I
I'm
was
glad.
listening to a lot of weird. Actually, that's a lie. One of the most memorable things I can think of, my very first concert was Weird Al. Some people might remember that from the podcast. Yeah. And
I was there.
That's terrifying. How did you get to Pennsylvania so quickly? It was in Pittsburgh, and the main thing that I remember is I think right before they started playing Saga Begins, I don't know if it was Weird Al or if it was somebody else. Somebody might actually have some fill-in for me for this information, but somebody would come out in a Jedi robe with the hood up, and they would do a bit where they would like go like this, and like there would be lightning on one side of the stage. Well, there was lightning on one side of the stage, and like, you know, it wasn't Nikolai Tesla, so there wasn't real lightning, but it felt like it was. But like they would do this whole bit, and then I think he would like he'd have a piano in front of him, and then he would go down and do the dun, 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 like after this whole like big epic bit, and then he would go off stage, and then they would do Saga. Or they did Saga right after
I
that.
think you might be referring to Ruben or Ruben.
Yeah?
Like that,
Yeah.
It's probably Ruben.
Yeah,
'Cause,
okay.
Yeah. Like him in his Palpatine outfit, I would imagine. I
You
mean,
couldn't see his face. It was it was just
So probably.
probably Palpatine.
As I saw in one interview while I was researching today, it was because they didn't want to scare any kids. That's why they got to
yeah.
cover Ruben's face. Well, do we want to do our first? We did get a couple of listener clips.
Well, I was going to, Dan, did you have anything for Saga?
For memories?
Yeah.
I just remember it being on MTV when I was a kid. The music video would constantly be playing on there.
MTV never
we'll get
played
into that
music
music
videos.
video.
Well,
I
do
got
ha-
some thoughts.
Oh yeah, no, I feel like that's where the meat of this is going to be. I do have one thing to add about how I was introduced to this song.
Oh, yeah.
So again, I kind of threw it out there earlier, but Radio Disney. So I didn't even get this radio station. I had to go out and actually buy the CDs. And so on one of them, at least it was actually, I knew it was supposed to be Radio Disney Jams 2, but I ended up getting like the best of, which also had that song on there. There is an edit of this song on that album. And so for those who know the song properly goes, he says
You see him hitting on the queen.
hitting on the queen,
Yeah.
and what is played instead is unfortunately this.
Do you see him talking to the queen, though he's just
Well, do you know what's funny about that is that
That's Al's edit.
that's Al's
Yeah.
edit. Before that, they just skipped it. They were
It was-
playing it for a while, just
there was
skipping the line.
There was a very obvious cut that
Yeah.
they put in the song where they're like, just from when he started the phrase, where he ended the phrase, and like, that's not going in there at all. So Al had actually heard that edit on Radio Disney and was like, that sounds bad, and it makes his sound engineer sound bad. So he went back in and he's like, hey, instead of making my song sound terrible, I'm just gonna re-record it and just send you a new edit so that you don't have to ever do that.
I wish that there were like actors who did that for movies. I get like, so we wouldn't get these Mr. Falcon snakes off of this monkey flinging train or whatever it was.
I mean, there are
Monday to Friday playing.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Monday to Friday.
Yeah. I mean, they're starting to do that with some movies where they're doing like a TV or version so they'll do different takes where they'll cut out the swears for that. But I remember there's a special feature on Hot Fuzz where Edgar Wright had actually found his movie, but a TV edited version of that movie, and he put together a supercut of every time that someone swore, and then put that all together. If you want to,
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I'm gonna have to watch that. Do we want to play our first? So we did leading up to this show. We asked our listeners to submit their voice to say their thoughts and feelings on The Saga Begins, because this is a song near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. We'll be playing a couple throughout the show, as well as getting any comments from people that are here. But do we want to play that first one now?
Yep. This first one comes from Roxanne Pena.
Hey.
Hey guys, Roxanne here, and I just wanted to give my 2 cents on The Saga Begins, because it's pretty much the song that made me a Weird Al fan. So it was released when I was 10, and at that point, I knew who Weird Al was. My mom had been a fan of his for a long time. I was familiar with a few of his songs that played on a kid's radio station. I even watched a TV show. That was pretty much where it ended. I didn't ever seek out his music just to listen to on my own. And then The Saga Begins was released, and for some reason, just from the first time I heard it, I was hooked. And I can't even exactly say why. It's not like the topic of Star Wars in particular was a big deal to me. I'd seen the movies, but it had never been something that I was a particularly big fan of. But The Saga Begins, I just fell in love with it. I got Running with Scissors that year for Christmas as my first Weird Al CD. And then it was pretty much history from there. As from there, I just slowly bought the rest of them all on my own. And to this day, Saga Begins is still, might be my favorite Weird Al song. Running with Scissors is definitely still one of my favorite albums. So I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about the song, and keep up the great work.
All right.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Kindred spirits there, Roxanne. And I'm really glad that she was here to know that Tony wasn't just laughing at her randomly. It was because Andrew was being a doofus on stage. That's why you come to the live shows. But yeah, absolutely. I think that story, I mean, that's my story as well, and I feel like that's got to be the story for a lot of people, especially of our generation of Al fans who...
Wait for it.
Okay.
Quality content, folks.
As I was saying...
How wooed.
Thank you. I think for a lot of our generation of Al fans, like, this is the song that brought parody music to our group. And it, I think if it wasn't for this song specifically, I mean, I don't know if we would have had this second, third, fourth generation of Al music. But then again, I'm sure if we didn't have this song, we'd have something else great that All About the Pentiums would have been the one that everybody was remembering. Yeah. But yeah, let's get into some history of the original. This is where Dan busts out his big old fat notebook.
Wait, that's not even written in it. You printed out pages and then glued them inside of the book.
That's cheating!
So we always talk about Dan's famous notebook, and a couple of months ago he stopped writing it and just typed it up and printed it out instead. Did you do this just because we were going to be on stage and you wanted to have the notebook?
Yeah, so I need to at least provide the notebook.
You got to at least show that it still exists.
It's actually true.
Good job.
For the people at home, it's still a notebook. It's definitely handwritten. Don't worry about it.
The illusion isn't broken for you.
All right, so we all know that the original song is American Pie by Jon Mclean. Jon
Still
McClane?
haven't heard
Don,
it.
wow.
Jon Mclean.
Guess who watched Die Hard right
He
before we
just
came
all that
here?
adrenaline from
American
Die
Pie,
Hard.
Mr. Falcon.
I have this thing where my brain is like, yeah, mouth, you've got this. You'll be fine.
This wasn't even hard names like Peter and the Wolf. You're just messing it up for people to correct you.
Yeah.
You got this. No pressure.
I feed off of the
So Don McLean.
Don McClain.
Yes.
So McClain?
McLean. It's
McLean.
Yeah,
McLean.
you know, it's like Mr. Clean, but McLean. It's the
Thanks.
If Mr. Clean was a rapper.
If Mr.
Oh,
Clean
yeah.
was an Irish rapper.
American Pie by Don Mclean. He was only 26 when he released the song. American Pie was released in November of 1971 and was an instant hit. It topped the U.S. charts for 4 weeks and was listed on number 5, or listed as number 5 on the Recording Industry Associations of America list of songs of the century. In 2017, McLean's original recording was selected to be preserved in the National Recording Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, and artistically significant. It was later covered by Madonna in the year 2000, but we're not going to talk about that. God. So the song lyrics, "The Day the Music Died," refers to the plane crash that happened in 1959 that killed 3 rock and roll performers, Buddy Holly, J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson, and Richie Valens. Now, if you want to hear more details about that plane crash, you can look it up, but I actually went over that before in a previous episode when we went over lasagna.
And we're going to play a clip? No.
We're just going to play you the entire episode of Lasagna.
Gotta fill the time slot.
Now, the line "February made me shiver with every paper I delivered" has been interpreted as Don learning that of Buddy Holly's death on February 3rd of 1959. Don McLean only had one job his entire life, aside from being a musical artist. He was actually a paperboy when he was 13 years old. So that's the only thing previous to him selling the manuscript of any interpretation that he has confirmed, that he was a paperboy and he had seen the headlines of one of his favorite music artists dying that day. The song has been interpreted as a snapshot of America in the 1960s. It captures a shift in American culture while dwelling on the nostalgia of the 1950s, with Don McLean symbolizing that by calling it Miss American Pie. And it is looked upon as a, quote, simpler time. Later in the song jumps forward 10 years to 1969, and the lyrics play as this as like a recap of what had happened in the past 10 years in American culture. Now, even though McLean has been questioned multiple times about the meanings of his lyrics, he has not been clear about the interpretations, and has often been questioned, he has often avoided the question by stating, "They're beyond analysis, they're just poetry." You will find many interpretations of the lyrics, but none by me. Sorry to leave you all on your own like this, but long ago I realized that songwriters should make their statement and move on, maintaining a dignified silence. He also commented on the popularity of his music, saying that I didn't write songs that were just catchy, but with a point of view, or songs about the environment. But we were certain that the song is partially about his grief for Buddy Holly after he dedicated the American Pie album to that artist. Now, after the success of American Pie, McLean got to have a conversation with Phil Everly, who was part of the rock and roll duo, the Everly Brothers. Don had actually asked about Buddy Holly, just knowing that they were friends with each other. And Phil had something interesting to say. He said that Phil had mentioned that, we found the house lights. Don't worry, someone else made that mistake last time we were here. Now, Phil had mentioned that something peculiar. He said that Buddy had died because of laundry, and he explained that he just wanted clean clothes before his show in Moreland, Minnesota, and he wanted to get there early to get to the laundromat to clean his clothes in time, and that's where they had to get onto that was basically like a Cherokee airplane. I know it's not a Cherokee, but it's like a really small airplane that got him there.
So are you saying we shouldn't do laundry? Is that the
Yeah.
takeaway?
So the moral of the story is just don't do laundry, and you will be fine. You'll live.
Andrew's got that taken care of.
3 years strong.
Taking that toy away.
No.
You guys are the ones who have to take toys away from me normally.
Well, then you certainly shouldn't have to
give me
be
that.
holding it.
And this bottle. Who let him have a bottle cap?
He could have
Oh
choked.
no, we gave him a bottle cap. All right, so the album cover for American Pie was a photo that was taken by the photographer George Whiteman. He came up with the idea of painting the stars and stripes on his thumb, on Don's thumb. When asked if Don would be afraid if he would offend anyone by doing this, and he just replied by saying, "It doesn't matter what you do, you're always going to offend someone with your actions." Page 2.
Oh my gosh, you have a lot of notes here.
Yeah.
See,
yeah.
I really normally we like try to interject and riff on things, but this is all just like too sobering and sad for me to say anything about. Thanks for coming to our comedy podcast, guys.
Wabazooba. By the way, this is the 20% where it's knowledge about the actual topic.
We'll get back to not knowing anything very soon.
It'll get darker, don't worry.
It gets darker.
Now, the song doesn't just limit itself on the plane crash, but also references other major historical events, such as the murders of the 3 civil rights workers, James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner. I'm pretty sure of that. Yeah. The song also mentions. The song also alludes to Bob Dylan, the Beatles, Charles Manson, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, and a lot more. The origins of where the songs were written, the origins of where the song was written has actually been debated for a long time. It has long been accepted that Don Mclean wrote the song in Saratoga Springs in New York at Cafe Lena. But in 2011, a New York Times article where Don Mclean disputed the claim, former employees of Cafe Lena claimed that he started writing the song there and continued to write the rest of the song in Cold Springs, New York, and Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. Mclean says that the song was only written in Cold Springs in Philly, and then there is a bar that's called Tin and Lint that's also located in Saratoga Springs. They've claimed that the song was written there, and they have a plaque that's written. They have a plaque at the booth where they assume that he wrote the song.
They assume.
Yeah.
No proof.
Yeah. So no one actually knows where this was written. So, and then on top of that, the other thing that's debated is where it was performed first. One place that's claimed that where it was performed was St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia. They claimed that at their venue was the first place the song was performed, while Mclean insists that the song was first played at Temple University, also in Philly, when he opened for Laura Nero on March 14th, 1971. Now, fast forwarding into February of 2015, Mclean announced that he would auction off the original manuscript, which revealed the meaning of several of the lyrics. And on April 7th of that year, the manuscript eventually sold for $1.2 million.
Wow. Is it to the same person who got the Wu-Tang album?
Probably. I tried looking up who actually bought it, and that's still a mystery.
And so I assume that then that person never said what these deeper meanings are.
Well, they actually started releasing photocopies of them, and
Oh.
some of the things were confirmed. So in the notes, Mclean wrote that basically in American Pie, things are heading in the wrong direction. It, being life, is becoming less idyllic. This is him saying this. I don't know whether you consider that wrong or right, but it is a morality song in a sense. The manuscript also confirms that the king refers to Elvis Presley, the gesture refers to Bob Dylan. It also confirmed the illusion of the death of Meredith Hunter that died during the Rolling Stones concert in 1969 when they hired the Hells Angels to provide security for them. It has been rumored that McLean appeared in a music video, or in the music video for Saga Begins. That is not true. But he obviously gave permission for Al to parody the song. He has also been known for singing Al's lyrics during live performances because his children played it so often around him, which I would imagine, though, that because we covered this before with Jurassic Park, with MacArthur Park and Jimmy Webb, whenever he would perform MacArthur Park, if you don't know, MacArthur Park is about it's a breakup song from long ago, and I would assume that because Jimmy Webb doesn't want to just be reminded of that breakup over and over again, he just decided to start singing the lyrics to Jurassic Park because that seems a lot more fun to do.
Yeah.
And instead of Don Mclean dwelling on the hardships that happened throughout the 60s, he's like, you know what I could just sing about? Star Wars. I'm just going to sing about Star Wars. Yeah,
The real question is, does
Yeah.
he sing hitting on or talking to?
Ooh. We'll have to debate that with the man himself. Let me text him real quick.
Okay, cool.
Now, I do need to mention my hometown, Grand Rapids, Michigan, because they created, shout out to the one person in the crowd from Grand Rapids.
Yay!
They created a lipped dub video to American Pie in 2011 in response to a Newsweek article that stated that the city was dying. The video was a huge success and even caught the attention of film critic Roger Ebert and stated that it was the greatest music video ever made.
Wow.
Yeah. And then to go into other parodies. On March 14th of 2015, a mathematics professor, Dr. Lawrence M. Lesser, won the National Museum of Mathematics Songwriting Contest for American Pie, P.I.
Nice.
And he received that award on March 14th of 2015 because the first 5 digits of pi are 31415.
Oh gosh.
Yep. Yeah, I found a nerds. You know, speaking of American Pie parodies, I found a quote from Weird Al that he said that his parody was the second funniest parody of American Pie, second only to Madonna's. But I'd also like to throw in The Office's rendition in the mix. If anybody remembers, there's that Office episode that ends with Michael and Dwight singing American Pie to a random gravestone. Good times. Should we start getting into the rest of the stuff about the parody then? Because I got all my notes on that. Not nearly as impressive as yours.
Or do we want to hear a clip from
listener? Let's do another listener clip.
Okay.
That seems like a great segue that we planned ahead of time.
Yeah. So this is another soundbite that we got from one of our Patreon supporters, Tyler Harper.
Hey guys, it's Tyler from Alberta, Canada. Just wanted to share my thoughts on the Saga Begins. First of all, I grew up with oldies, songs from the 60s and 70s. I knew American Pie very well, and it fascinated me to know that Star Wars was being combined with some oldies music. I first found out about the song at a youth activity at church, and one of the guys just mentioned that it existed, and one of his favorite lines was, "I'm still here and he's a ghost." We just thought that was hilarious because, being the dark nature of death. But we loved it. Also, one of our activities at church was an air band competition. My brother, much younger than I, but also passionate about Star Wars, he did a whole kind of reenactment of the Phantom Menace, and had an N1 starfighter actually sail across the stage. It was one of those big inflatable water toys, and that was a very memorable moment. We've always loved Weird Al, we've always loved Star Wars, and what a great combination. Keep it weird, guys. Tyler out.
All right. Thank you so much, Tyler.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. Good hearing from you.
Tyler's been a big supporter of us for a while now, so it's always good to hear from him. He mentions the "but he's a ghost" line. Our friends over at We're All Yankovics, they were talking about, they did their episode on Saga Begins pretty recently, and they were talking a lot about who the ghost he's referring to in the song, but it's absolutely Qui-Gon is what he's referring to, right? I'm still here. He's a ghost, so now I have to train the boy because Qui-Gon's not here.
Yeah. Right. Why would he be singing about
what were they disputing then?
They thought he was talking about Maul.
Maul wasn't dead at that point, though,
That's
because
true.
he falls down and he gets turned into a robot later.
It's true.
Do your work, Yankovics.
Well, going into the history of the parody, it's pretty well known by a lot of Al fans that Weird Al reached out to George Lucas before writing the song to say, hey, can I look at the script? I want to do this. And Lucasfilm, being very secretive about the script, said, no, we're not going to release the script. So
But they would clearly give him like a pre-screening, right?
Well, no. He had to go and pour over the internet to find as many spoilers as possible to be able to piece together the entire story, and it is really, really, really impressive what he was able to come up with. I mean, I think that also shows you just like the attitude people had at the time, where Phantom Menace was probably the biggest anticipation for a movie ever, that everybody in the galaxy was ready for this movie and freaking out over this movie and watching every trailer. And so everybody was trying to get as much information as possible. I found a great quote from him from an interview, somebody asking about, do you usually like looking at spoilers? And he said that he doesn't like reading spoilers, but, quote, sometimes for the sake of humanity, I have to make the ultimate sacrifice. Because truly the ultimate sacrifice is not being surprised by a Star Wars. I won't do that for any of you guys. I'm sorry. I don't love you that much. But he did end up going to a charity screening just before the movie was released. I think I saw some things say $500 a ticket, some things $1,000 a ticket.
That's what I found as well. He had to pay $500 to attend a charity pre-screening, and it wasn't even like weeks before. This was like 3 days before the movie was going to be released worldwide.
And at the point, he had already written everything in the song. This was just to kind of confirm. And he said that
they recorded everything as much as they possibly could. They just didn't put down the final mix yet until he saw the movie.
And I think the only thing that was changed was a line. I don't have the exact line written down here about.
Maybe if someone did their research.
I did my research. I just didn't write it down. I don't have a fancy printer like you do, Dan.
Yep. All right.
Do you have the exact line?
I do. He says. So the original line was, he said, I hear he's going to marry her someday. And that was then later changed to, he's probably gonna marry her someday.
Because in these spoilers online, apparently everybody thought that Anakin had a line to say, I'm going to marry you, and be even creepier than he already was.
I hate sand.
Let's see. I think I also just have to mention with that Jake Lloyd. First of all, Jake Lloyd is an amazing human being and does not deserve the credit, or deserves more credit than he gets, because he was put in a really, really tough position and had to go through the cruddiest childhood ever, being the kid who played Anakin. Yeah. But he actually got to perform this song on stage with Weird Al at a show.
That's amazing.
It's wonderful, and I love that exists in the universe.
I have a clip of it.
You do?
What?
Yes, because I was going to talk about it. I didn't know you were going to do it. Okay, here we go. So then they reveal Jake Lloyd. Trust me, if you listen close, you can hear him sing. What about... It's the real one.
voice of an angel.
It's really heartwarming hearing Star Wars fans actually being supportive of cast member.
And that was and that was in the same year as well when he performed September 26th, 1999.
I'm trying to think which reveal would I freak out more, that Jake Lloyd doing Saga Begins, or if I was there for the Lin-Manuel coming out for Yoda. That would be tough. I'd probably be more excited about Jake Lloyd, but
Really?
it's Jake Lloyd.
Yeah,
he
but
never
it's
does things
Lin-Manuel.
anymore. If Jake Lloyd came out today, like if he walked through that door today, that would be the greatest thing that ever happened in my life.
Lucky
Sorry,
for you,
Alexa,
I actually have him backstage. Welcome to the stage, Jake.
We don't have a budget.
Do you have any other facts about the history of writing the parody?
Let's see. This is how I read you guys, by saying.
I don't know why that reminded me of System of a Down. I just want to do that.
I do have a quote from Weird Al
Sorry,
that says, I always have to. He was talking about why he chose to do a song about Star Wars and why he decided to have it as his lead single. I always try to have the lead single off my albums to be a parody of some major pop culture event. And since I had a sneaking suspicion that people might just be interested in a new Star Wars movie, I decided to plan the release of my album around the release of The Phantom Menace. Fingers crossed. I do want to mention, though, George Lucas's response to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So George Lucas eventually got to listen to the song later on. Weird Al got a call from a representative from Lucasfilms, and they had this quote to say, "You should have seen the smile on his face."
Aww.
Yeah.
Wholesome George.
Yes.
I think it's also interesting that this song is like normally he does the lead single on each album is something contemporary, something that's come out in the last couple of years. This is one of the only lead singles on an album that's not a current pop song, that's digging into the archives at least a little bit to create something. But I don't know, it definitely pays off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jurassic Park.
It's like one of the very few, if anything.
Yeah, but who remembers
That's
Jurassic
what I said.
Park?
I didn't say the only. I said one of the only. And I think it's also, generally my theory with, I think Weird Al songs, the more lyrics he manages to cram into the song, the better it usually ends up being. That's why a lot of his... Yeah, that's why a lot of also things like White Nerdy and All About the Pentiums are so fantastic, because he can cram in so many amazing jokes. And I think this being one of his longer songs, not one of the long songs, but one of his longer regular songs.
I don't know, Mr. Frump and the Iron Lung is pretty fantastic.
That's true. Do you guys think that this song deserves the massive credit that it gets as being one of the best Al songs?
I think what's going on here is that, and we've discussed this before, where he took on a song that was already great. American Pie was already a great song. And then to take on what was supposed to be a cultural phenomenon, which is a new Star Wars movie. We haven't seen a new Star Wars movie since the 80s. So for a new Star Wars movie to come out, to be paired with one of the greatest songs of all time, I think that's what shot it up and put it up on this really high pedestal.
But even apart from what made it so popular, is it that good as well? I mean, is it a really
his
funny
lyrics?
Because I gotta be honest with you, this is gonna end up in my top 5 Weird Al songs, maybe even higher. Spoilers for later on in the show. This song is so freaking great. I love how it does. It encapsulates the story in a really great way. He does a lot of songs. Think of I can't think of the title now, but the song about Spider-Man.
Ode to a Superhero.
Ode to a Superhero. Thank you. But of all of his songs that are going through, the story of a movie or of a story of a TV show, there's something about this that really is really special. I think even beyond just the fact that I like Star Wars, this is an amazing song. I don't know. Do you guys feel the same way?
Oh yeah, I love this
think
song.
so.
Yeah.
No, I think it's absolutely great. But I also wanted. Can I chime in with another person's input?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So this comes from Don Pinsent, who's another one of our listeners. He didn't send me an audio clip, so I'm just going to read it real quick. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't put The Saga Begins among Al's worst songs, but in my opinion, it's just sort of okay.
I'm already off.
I know, that's why I'm playing devil's advocate. Okay, here we go. Yes, it's pretty impressive how he recounts the story of the Phantom Menace in one parody, although it would be more enjoyable had he not done this with the worst of all the Star Wars movies. And I do like that he chose the classic, long, meandering American Pie to do it with. But here's the one thing that ruins the song for me. It's just not that funny. Retelling the story of the movie with very few actual jokes to fill it out just left me feeling really disappointed the first time I heard the song. And I'm afraid it hasn't grown on me with multiple listens. Even though the video is woefully short on sight gags, in my opinion, the worst thing a Weird Al song can be is unfunny. So, The Saga Begins ranks fairly low on my list, around the middle at best, probably lower. Sorry if that brings down the excitement for the episode to any degree. Thanks, Don. So now we're going to talk about that. And to his credit, yes, the song isn't funny.
It's not jokes. It's not gags.
I mean,
right.
Even with Ode to a Superhero and Jurassic Park, neither of those were really funny as well.
I'm gonna put it. No. There are definite actual jokes in
Prove
Ode.
it.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. The joke about Willem Dafoe.
Yeah,
being
he's
like
scarier
scary without
the
a mask
Power
on?
Rangers mask.
That's just mean.
That's but
That's
funny.
hurtful.
but funny.
Funny is mean. That's why we have Andrew here, so we have somebody to be mean to. I mean funny to.
We're always mean to you. This is projection, isn't it?
But anyways, I guess what my point is that the closest thing that we have to a funny line in this song is "Stick it in your pointy ear."
Or do you see him hitting on the Queen? I think that's. I mean.
But was he
It's pointing out something absurd about the property in the same way the Power Rangers mask is pointing out something
All right,
absurd.
okay. Well, and I get that. Again, I'm just trying to see where he's coming from because I think that because there's a lot of things in there that I do not agree with. I do not think that this is the worst Star Wars movie. I don't think this is the worst Weird Al parody, and I definitely wouldn't rank it lower than the mid. But what I will say is that when it comes to the music video specifically, which we haven't talked about yet,
I'll get there.
good. It really is kind of bland, and it kind of does utilize like, hey, look, here's a guy dressed up like an alien doing a dance that almost looks like the Floss.
Well, let's explain
like-
some of the music
Yeah.
video and.
Can I say one other
Oh, of
thing
course,
to
yeah, go
what
for it, yeah.
I
David has to
think
retort.
because he was saying that this being about the worst Star Wars movie is what makes it a lesser song. I think it being about a bad movie is what makes it better and makes it funnier, that you're able to point out the ridiculous things. But I don't know. I think what makes it really special is that it goes beyond being something funny, that it's saying... It's such a wonderful statement on fan culture, and I think this is getting ahead of myself because I think this is going to get into like some of the deeper meaning stuff, but especially in a day and age where there's so much negativity in fandom, there's so much conversation right now about toxic fandom, especially in Star Wars fandom.
Yeah.
Being able to hear somebody say, this thing isn't great, but we can still like it, like we can still be okay with something not being great. It's like the perfect way of poking fun at something without being a terrible person about it, without being the type of person that led Jake Lloyd on an awful dark path, which if you really want to be sad, look up history on Jake Lloyd's life after Phantom Menace. It's depressing.
Well, that
because-
and Ahmed Best.
Yeah,
told you.
and
I mean,
Ahmed
they're
Best.
Like recently, the video that he put out saying that like he was almost driven to suicide because of that.
And I think, for me, just seeing somebody say, like, we don't have to all say that this is the greatest thing ever. We can talk about how silly it is in a fun way, in a positive way. And I don't know. I just think there's something really, really amazing about the existence of this song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Should we talk about the music video?
Yeah, we can talk about the music video. Because you said it seemed like it came up short in a lot of ways. Or
Well, I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, given the music video was shot in 2 days. So
Okay, yeah, I guess that's fair.
It was shot in 2 days. The first day was on a soundstage. They dressed it to make it look like a makeshift Tatooine bar. Day 2, they went out to the Mojave Desert, and it was 110 degrees
Yikes.
in the shade when they were filming. Yeah, they even had accounts of crew members passing out while they were filming. So I imagine that they could not spend as much time out in the desert for that. So
Poor Ruben. He's wearing that Palpatine
know.
outfit. He's
So,
just
like-
sitting there going like, I'm going to die.
yeah. So I imagine it's just one take, you're done. We got to get out of here, or more people are just going to pass out throughout the day. So I think that's the reason why.
I don't know why Ruben is still committing to the Palpatine role. In that.
Now, I found out some trivia on this. Queen Amidala in the music video was played by Al's cousin. But I later did some more research into this. I'd found out that not only did she play Queen Amidala, but she also appeared on the album cover of Poodle Hat. She was actually the businesswoman who's in the foreground. But there's also one other person who was in the album cover.
Yeah, I did. How did I not? I
Yeah.
saw the same thing today, and I said, "How in the world did I not know this
and
before?"
he happens to be here in the crowd. We have UH Jeff in the crowd here. He was on the album cover of Poodle Hat.
Did I not know that?
Yeah.
Why didn't I?
He was wearing a baseball cap. He's all the way in the back because Al seems to be ashamed of him, I guess. But he's all the way back there, and you can double check, like, there he is. And I did not believe it at first. I was like, no way. Maybe it's just someone else named UH Jeff, which who else would have that name? And I looked in the back and I'm like, that's him. That's definitely him in the back.
Yeah, absolutely. So this morning, I watched the music video for the very first time.
Seriously?
Somehow, I had never gotten around to watching this music video. And I think I know why. Because I always started it, and I got about a minute in, and I'm like, I'm going to do something else. Because it's not that great of a music video. It's fine, but it's just the song. I love the song, but the music video, I had a hard time even, like, staying on it. And there's some cool aliens. I like that. But aside from that, I
think
don't
it
know.
was just to get it on MTV.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the era where it was like, we're not making music videos because we want to make funny videos. We just got to get something on MTV so Dan can hear about the song.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks,
MTV.
And also, if you look in at Nathan Rabin's book, there's a photo of him with his cousin. I think it's Tammy Seidel. I like to. Oh, wait, hold on. I could just read you the quote. Even though the picture I took is very blurry. I like to cast my relatives in things. They have a great attitude and they work cheap. Good old Al.
I did think it was funny in the music video how they have that Yoda silhouette just sitting there in the front. Obviously because they couldn't have him move and they couldn't afford a very detailed Yoda. So we're just going to put his silhouette there in the front. So we know that Yoda's there without having to put any work into it. And honestly, that's probably what they should have done in the actual Phantom Menace instead of that god-awful puppet.
Oh, yeah.
But
The puppet wasn't that bad.
the puppet was awful.
The
It's
puppet had too small of eyes
I did
and it
not
needed
like
a bigger nose.
That puppet is scary.
I
Yeah, it was.
rewatched Saga
Strongly
Begins.
disagree.
I rewatched Phantom Menace last night. I live tweeted. So for those who may have seen those tweets, I apologize. There was a lot of them. That was one of those things where I'm like, I don't think that they really needed to completely CGI him out in later releases.
I'm totally fine with that decision.
But like I can understand the sense of consistency throughout the prequel trilogy. But I don't know.
Also, I really love the clones of him at the very end of all the different ones.
Oh, you mean the Nightmare Fuel? Yeah, that's Nightmare Fuel.
Well, the reason that I like this, and I couldn't find any like specific things about this. I mean, I about why they had the clones there, except they're like, oh, we know that the Clone Wars is coming, and so this is kind of leading into it. But there was a popular fan theory for a while that Obi-Wan was actually before the prequels came out, a theory that Obi-Wan was supposed to be Obi-Wan because he was part of the Clone Wars, and so there were more clones of Obi 2 and Obi 3 and Obi 4. That was
I
a theory that was around before the prequels came out. And so I don't know if that was part of Al's inspiration for having that little bit there, because he's Obi-Wan and now there's lots of Obi-Wans.
We can't have that many space detectives.
That Snoke theory sucks.
The fact that he spent so much time on internet message boards trying to find spoilers for this movie, that's had to have got into his brain at least a little bit. I'm going to credit the internet for that.
We also need to mention that he was doing research in 1998 on the internet. I don't know if anyone remembers the internet in 1998. Oh man,
I can hear the dial-up in my head.
Those were
and
rough
do we
days.
have a clip? No.
It's still loading.
Get off the internet. I need to use the phone.
And that's why I never heard the song, because I was like, I don't have internet to do anything more than just the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
I do like, though, reading that most of his research came from theforce.net, because I was trolling those message boards in middle school and high school all the time. It's like, hey, Al came to the same place.
Al eventually did a interview with theforce.net, which is probably where we got all of our research from. But yeah, he did an interview with them, and he mentioned, if it wasn't for you guys, I probably wouldn't have a lot of the lyrics to make the song.
Yeah. Aww. So thanks to internet fanboys everywhere. Should we, before we start getting into our segments to start getting towards the tail end of the show, do we want to ask if the audience has anything they would like to add? Maybe is there something we got wrong? Because that's the most important thing.
And common.
If anybody, here, you know what? Is there anybody who would like to say something? Yeah? All right, Tony, here, I'll come over here with the mic. What did we get wrong, or what do you want to add?
Well, I'm close enough to the stage that I've been shouting the things you've been getting wrong all night. So, but I do want to tell a story about the recording of the song, because a couple of years after the song came out, I saw Bermuda speak at a convention in Michigan called Dementia 2001, where he told some of the things that happened when they recorded it. You see, the original piano piece of American Pie was improvised. I don't know if Don Mclean actually played piano on the track, or if he had a piano player, but they basically improvised back and forth. If you listen to it, it's there's no real set metric. There's no real definitive beat to it. It's just kind of a vocalist and a piano player just kind of riffing between themselves. Al wanted to replicate that riffing exactly down to the note. And if you've ever tried to lip sync to a spoken piece, it's really hard. Imagine that, but for music. And Al was very clear to Ruben.
You guys don't do audiobook karaoke?
Yeah, exactly.
So wasn't that a scene in The Good Place of trying to do karaoke to Nixon speeches?
Yes. No, to Nixon tapes.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. But yeah, Al was very clear to Ruben, I want to replicate this exactly. And Ruben came into the studio and he didn't know it exactly. He knew it basically, and Al basically threw him out. Al said, go home, learn this, and come back tomorrow. And the rest of the band went to work on some of the other parodies on Running with Scissors, and the next day Ruben came back and he still didn't quite know it. So so basically forcing him to be in the Palpatine outfit out in the desert was Al's revenge.
Oh.
All right.
Well, what do you expect from the new guy, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Tony. I think our Tesser Elk or Phasma Elk is coming by with gifts. So can we come on, Tesser Elk?
Tesser Elk, we're calling to you.
Big hand for the Tesser Elk.
My favorite. It's good to see you again, Tesser Elk.
Thing. Can you give a prize to Tony for adding to the
incentivize, because we like positive reinforcement here. To incentivize people to come out to our live shows, we have
well,
audio down. Oh,
audio down.
Oh, is that
audio down?
Our microphones are out as well?
No. We
it was actually.
I'm just turned down still.
Yeah.
This is us bribing you to talk to us.
Yeah. So we got solo posters.
Yeah.
What else do we got?
If there's anybody else who wants to say anything. All right, cool. Well,
are we playing Christmas music for this bit?
Yeah.
It's the Tesser Elk.
Yeah.
Christmas, remember?
Oh, yeah.
At Ground Zero, where this all started.
Where it all began.
Yep.
Where the
any more?
saga began.
Well,
Do
I'm
we
sure
have
we'll.
any Star Wars trivia that anyone can answer to give out prizes to?
All right,
All right.
I've got a couple. Well, okay, I'll do one, and then we'll get into our segments because I think we can save these for some other things later on.
Okay.
But
is
I'll
true.
do one Star Wars trivia.
I mean, we made a big deal about the Tesseract. And it's
That's
like,
true. That's
yay,
true.
no.
We do have her
But
here.
the Tesseract
We've got
is
the
Hill.
Music. Okay, good Phantom Menace trivia. This is prize to the first person who can shout out this name. In Phantom Menace, podcast announcers. One speaks in an alien language. The other one is voiced by a comedian who's also been. Hey, there we go. Greg Proops. Give a poster to that bearded man.
He wants Amelia Clark.
You got Amelia Clark?
Let's see. No, you have Childish Gambino on yours, I think.
I got Donald Glover on one side and Woody Harrelson on the other.
Are you sure? You're not sure where to walk, Tesseract?
got it. Okay, you're good.
Okay, you got it.
There we go.
All right,
good.
I think we've got a place for that last one at the end. Or it's something else coming up. So let's get into our final segments here. Dan,
Bless your soul, Tesseract.
Yay! Let's
Yeah,
give
give
it
her
up
the
for Tesseract. Yay!
Thank you for keeping all the dimensions combined into one place for us.
Whoa. You can go back. You can go sit down, Tesseract. I think we're good for right now.
Thank you.
The gifts, many other gifts will come later.
Yeah.
Dan-
She's great at traveling through space and time, but navigating on a stage, that's near impossible.
There are a lot of wires.
Dan, you got a deeper meaning for us? A deeper meaning for the Saga Begins?
No.
Does he ever?
I do. All right. So,
Oh wait, I forgot. We're actually gonna auction off this deeper meaning for $1 million, right? That's what we were doing.
if anyone's willing to pay it, I won't deny you. Why would you want this? I have no idea.
It's not even written on the actual paper.
No, it isn't. Shh, don't tell him that.
Sorry.
All right, here we go.
All right. So,
Scene.
American Pie taps into this illusion that the 50s were a simpler time, when really it was a time of much controversy beneath the surface, especially with racial tensions and gender inequality. The day the music died is when everything was revealed and flipped upside down, showing that America was not what it appeared to be. And this is how I can tie this into the Star Wars fandom. For the original trilogy, we hold a fond nostalgia for those films. Whether we watched them premiere in theaters or you grew up with them as a kid, we put these films on a grander pedestal than they truly deserve. What George Lucas did was reveal more to the story because, like many artists, he never saw that his work was complete and the technology was just never able to catch up to his vision. So when he tried to provide more answers and give more context to the fans about an epic tale and a mysterious character, Darth Vader or Anakin Skywalker, he was instead ridiculed for indirectly destroying the illusion that we have been carrying for all these years. It's like when you watch a movie that's based on a book that you've read. You carry this idea in your head for so long, and when you see it executed on the screen, you're going to be disappointed no matter what. And the original Star Wars trilogy is great, but it's not perfect. And that's what we need to understand. George Lucas set out to make the prequel trilogy not just for those fans, but a new generation of fans. New fans that can finally say, we were there when it happened. But these films also transcended the gap between generations. The original fans have shared their love of the films to the next generation and for them to enjoy it as much as they did. And the next generation will do the same, and it's happening now with the sequel trilogy. Star Wars is about connecting generations and finding that common ground. None of us have the high ground here. So, you can still believe that the prequels are bad or great.
They
You
were
can
a good
keep-
friend.
Yeah. You can keep lashing about the sequel trilogy, but know that we are just fans that just want to keep the story going, because that is what unites us. Because no matter what we do, the saga will continue.
Wow. Dang,
Yeah. I'd spend $1 million on that.
Yeah. I really want to add to that, but I don't think I can. That's a really great summation of. But I do think it is totally true. Just the way that people view past creations as sacred, as more sacred than they probably should
The sacred
be.
text.
We we do it with music, we do it with movies, we do it with way too many things, and I agree that we should keep moving forward. And it's fine to like movies with bad acting and bad writing that have cool lightsaber fights and pod racers and stuff. I can like that movie, and I still do.
Pod racing's the best part. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why they extended it.
Well,
Well, yeah, when just in the home release, yeah.
Oh,
did you not know that?
no, I didn't know it got extended. I don't know
Yeah.
if I got to see that movie in theaters.
Well, we should, after that amazing rendition and talk about fandom and this, fan culture, let's hear something even deeper and even grander and even more important. Andrew's
Me.
fun fact.
Everybody close your eyes. Center yourselves for the knowledge. Remember, we are receptors of the great Tesseract. And today we're going to learn things about Star Wars, actually. Isn't that
really?
great? Yeah.
Ooh.
It's really, it's my own thing. It is.
Oh, I thought since we had an audience here, we would get something from.
We can do that afterwards. This is actually a pretty quick fun fact.
Okay.
Cool. Okay.
So I think that I've come up with this pretty much by myself. I don't think there's ever been any fan theories about this in the past. But
Rey's a robot.
no. Well, that would be interesting.
She's the only person who can speak R2 language. R2 only wakes up when
Luke
she
can
gets
he?
to resist. No, he never does. He reads it on a screen in Empire Strikes Back.
Lame. Anyway, so there's actually a character in episode 1 that, from my extensive learning, sorry, not in episode 1, but in the Star Wars universe, who I believe is a Sith Lord that is as powerful, if not more powerful, than Anakin himself. Darth Vader. I know. It's crazy. But I'm going to put this mask down.
Oh, okay.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure we've all seen
Uncle
the Darth...
Owen
Oh!
is actually an insanely powerful...
Well, he is an orc.
What?
Joel Edgerton?
Oh, yeah. No. And I have proof, too. I have more proof than the crazies that say that Jar Jar was that Jar Jar was going to be the Dark Lord. No, I have more proof than that. Darth Lord?
Yeah.
And that
No,
proof
he's
is there's really and we're going to ignore some small facts within this information.
Who needs facts?
But so we do know that Uncle Owen was the son of what's his face, the person that took in Anakin's mom.
Yeah.
And I know that Uncle Owen was born before they got together. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jesse, for giving me that fun little fact. But I think that just being in too close proximity to each other, they maybe like some of Uncle Owen's powers rubbed off on Anakin, and that's why he turned into Darth Vader eventually. Because who are the two people, 3, but we're going to take away the third person, who burst into flames randomly within the series? Anakin. Lava's not important. I mean, we know that was green screen, so how could he have caught on fire? Dumb. And Uncle Owen and his wife, but we're going to ignore that.
Owen and Beru didn't burst into flames randomly. Obi-Wan killed them to get Luke to go on the mission with him. That's what happened. Obi-Wan's like, the only way I'm going to get this kid to come with me is if I get rid of his aunt and uncle.
Parents.
That's what he did. He killed those Jawas too.
And he was a good friend.
No, you can't. I think Uncle Owen's power was just too much, and where Anakin just kind of lit on fire, Uncle Owen just obliterated himself in a supernova that killed Aunt May or whatever her name was. Aunt
May?
Yeah.
Sure. Should we call that the Andrew fun fact? I feel like that wasn't weird enough.
No.
I would
We
love
need
to take.
something-
Let's get someone from
Can
Go
somebody
for it.
just... Andrew knows everything about everything. Can somebody
In the
shout
universe.
out for us what they want to hear Andrew talk about? Snot
Snot
rags.
rags.
Tesseract, give that man a poster.
There you go. Snot rags.
Tell us about snot rags, Andrew.
Well, so this is actually a product that's been tried and true for many, many a year, and they've tried to market it in various countries over the years. But the problem is that nobody can really mark down where the copyright holder is or who originally has the copyright, because it was kind of all at once sometime during like the early 1930s that suddenly, like literally across the world, everybody was just coming to the different, like, copyright, like, where you turn in your
patent place?
Yeah, the patent offices. Yeah, Patton Oswalt actually made those. But anyway.
Oh, okay.
He's a time traveler. Don't worry about it. We'll get to that in another
That makes
episode.
a lot of sense.
Yep. And so everybody was trying to get these, patents in for, like, the new and improved snot rags. They all had different names, of course, like the ooze towel or, the messy nostrils. But
What about the ShamWow?
that's one of the few that was able to break through. It's allowed to be just a little bit too different. But there were some products that were really impressive. Some would make it that you'd be clear for the rest of the year by using it. Didn't have to worry about allergies or anything like that. That got shot down by NASA. Like so many things. But yeah, and the ShamWow's probably the closest that we've gotten, unfortunately. It's really sad. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Hopefully one day somebody will actually. It's just those patent trolls, man.
Yeah.
It's constantly tearing
See,
it down.
what they're trying to do is get a patent on snot, right? That's what it was.
Oh, it was free energy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was just another method to make free energy, and unfortunately, you can't have that.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for that.
Michael?
Yeah.
You got an Al cameo for us?
Yeah, yes, I do, actually. So, Funny or Die, a long time ago, and or not Funny,
Galaxy
sorry.
far, far away.
Let me take that back.
A long time ago.
Yes. College Humor. My apologies, I misspoke.
Do you want to play the video on the projector?
You know what's fun? I had the video prepared for the projector, but I'm not going near that darn droid. Thanks for bringing that up, Dan. See, this is why I feel like this exact issue is why droids are not allowed in the Cantina bar. It's like you're not working when I told you to work.
Oh, I see the problem. Somebody left the restraining bolt on it. That's why we're not getting the full message.
There you go.
Anyways, so College Humor put out a video called Star Wars Cantina Band Auditions. And in that video, it featured some of the members of the, what do you remember what the band was?
Figure and Dan and the Modal Notes.
There you go.
Do you know what style of music they plays?
Jizz.
Jizz wailing.
Jizz wailing.
Jizz
We're
wailing.
not making this up.
Yes,
Not
that is
making
real.
that
It
up.
is canon. It is called Jizz.
Yep.
Yes. So they're having auditions to replace some of the band members, and among them were Star Warsy versions of Chris Daughtry, Ben Folds, Liz Phair, Reggie Watts.
Double check those names.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
Yeah. I'm reading it as I'm
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, when has the internet ever been wrong?
Okay. Reggie Watts.
Sure. Keep going.
Mark McGrath, Jordan Sparks, Rick Springfield, Lisa Loeb, and MC Chris, as well as Weird Al himself. And so, on that, I guess David's trying to prove me wrong.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Keep going.
So this is one of the songs that Weird Al, is playing during these auditions.
Bantha milk, so creamy and blue. Squeezed from a space yak, it's healthy for you. Hey!
Sorry, Bob, not feeling that one. Got anything else?
Yeah, sure, here's a new one. Rudely stew, it's Master Yoda's brew. A Dagobah dish that smells funky to Luke. Hey!
Yeah, you got anything else that isn't about food?
So there you go. So that's the cameo there.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and rank this song. Now, I have been struggling for a while on where
Close
I
your
want to
eyes.
put this. Oh, they're all gonna make their guesses. Well, I gotta
You guys
lead
can make
up.
your guesses too.
Here, I'll look this way, so I'm not seeing what fingers they're showing. Here's the thing, is that for me, the things that I like the most are, even if something isn't necessarily the best, like I'll agree with Don Pinsent that this is not the most jokey of his songs, and it's definitely not his funniest song. But when I think about the types of things that I like, I always appreciate something that goes for something that means something grand over something that is really, really well told and well made. That's why I think Last Jedi is my second favorite Star Wars movie, even though I can recognize that there's some bad jokes and some clunky moments, but what it's trying to do is just so grand that I adore that movie and keep coming back to it, and it means so much to me. And when I think about what you were saying about the statement of fandom, when I think about what Star Wars fandom means in my own life, when I think about being in the audience of a Weird Al show and singing Saga Begins with everybody, and that being just some of the most magical experiences I've ever had. For my own personal rankings, I'm going to have to put Saga Begins at number 1.
Oh!
So my favorite Weird Al song as of right now, you know, we still got more songs to go. My favorite Weird Al song, Saga Begins.
Wow.
All right. Wow.
What is that replacing again?
That is
what is that above and
Hardware
below-
Store. Hardware Store is now number 2.
Wow.
Albuquerque is now number 3.
Ooh.
So
Take me forever to edit that site now. I have to literally shift every
Oh,
single
really?
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
I'm sorry.
So where does that put Achy Breaky Song? Because that used
Achy
to
Breaky Song?
It used to be number 1.
What episode number is this?
162.
It puts it at 162.
Okay.
That's where it puts it. But what do you guys prefer? Dan, what do you prefer? American Pie or Saga Begins?
God, I love pie. Sorry, what are we talking about?
I have to go with American Pie.
Ooh.
Yeah. Thank you for the one person that agreed with me. Yes. You get it.
Andrew, Saga Begins or American Pie?
I'm going to have to say Saga Begins. I love episode 1.
Michael?
See, this is really difficult for me because American Pie makes me cry every single time.
And so does Saga Begins.
Saga Begins makes me cry every single time.
You know what? I feel like I'm gonna. This vote is being heavily influenced by my dad, whom we have not mentioned at all in this episode.
I know, how did we miss that?
My dad.
We almost got him as a guest.
I know.
Oh, that would have been great.
My dad's favorite Star Wars episode is episode 1, and he will fight for it till the day he dies.
Great movie.
He hit me in the face.
For people who listen to the show, he goes through these phases, and this is one phase he's never gotten out of. I told him, Dad, what is everything that you like? And he went, I like the midichlorians, and I like Jar Jar, and I like all these things. I'm like, Dad, you literally listed everything that people hate about it. and he's just like, but it's there, and it's important. And so now, after rewatching it last night, after thinking about it now, and after stalling, I'm going to go with Saga Begins.
All right.
Yeah.
Love you, Dad.
But I want to
also
hear
love
from
you, Michael's father.
I want to hear from our audience as well. If you think you prefer American Pie more, make some noise. If you prefer Saga Begins, make some noise.
That's a pretty even
That's
split.
that's pretty
That was
even.
almost 50-50.
That's fair. That's fair. As long as there's applause for Saga.
We're not
because-
going to do that terrible public speaking thing where we're like, we didn't hear you.
All right, who prefers the Madonna version of American Pie?
Yeah, one person.
Before we start wrapping this up, I skipped this in my notes earlier, but I think this is a good thing to wrap it up on.
Okay.
As of right now, we have one Weird Al song for the original trilogy, and it is one of the greatest, most memorable Weird Al songs ever. We have another one for the prequel trilogy that is one of the greatest, most memorable Weird Al songs ever. Do you think there should be one for the sequel trilogy?
Absolutely.
Yes, I believe there should be.
And do you have any ideas for it? Because here's the thing with doing a sequel trilogy is that there are so many Star Wars parody things now. It is, I mean, there was just, A Star is Born parody that came out like a week or two ago of Kylo Ren and Rey singing that. And it's insane how much there are. I don't know, for Al to make one, it would have to be the greatest thing on the planet. And at this point, I feel like everybody's expectations are just way too high. I don't know if there could be a song written to satisfy people's expectations for what they would want out of this.
Well, neither do the movies.
Yeah. I mean, to quote Don Mclean, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to offend someone.
This is true. Very true. Very true. Yeah, I want it to happen, but I want it to be great. I don't want it to be, I love Ode to a Superhero, but that's kind of like, it's off to the side on that album. It's got to be.
Okay, so first off, he needs to choose a truly great song first.
Yes.
So I would think he's never done Stairway to Heaven before, right?
Oh.
So I think he would have to do that.
Or like something on the Stairway to Heaven level.
Yeah. So.
And it's all about Solo.
Yes.
He literally just comes out of left field. Is like, you know what? That movie may have bombed, but I'm gonna write a song about it.
I'm doing my song about Rebels, the show.
Yeah. about Star Detours.
Yeah.
The series that never came out.
Yeah. Oh man.
Do a song about the Christmas special.
Yeah.
I would love that.
I would love that too, Andrew.
I'm trying to think of what the worst song ever is to parody to do the Christmas special, but then I remember he already did Achy Breaky Heart, so I don't know what he would do.
Won't let it die.
All right. Well, do we have any final thoughts before we start wrapping this up? All right. Well, I have to say this has been a dream come true.
This has been wonderful.
We did a live show at Festival, but doing this where this was, you guys are not here because we are a random side event at a fest. You guys came here for us, and I still cannot get over that fact. And we have been like, we've been freaking out about this all the last couple of weeks. This is something we've been trying to get together for months, and I am so overjoyed to see so many faces
so
here.
So grateful.
Thank you guys.
Really, thank you guys
so
much.
much
Thank you so
for
much.
coming to this show. And you know, if you don't listen to the podcast, go listen to the. If you were dragged here by a friend, go listen to the podcast. PipeDreamPodcast.com.
For real.
We're not going to go over. all
Listen
of
to
that
the recent
random-
episodes.
Yeah.
Don't listen, just ignore the beginning ones unless you like fire alarms. They're great.
We won't go over into all of our plugs and anything, but I guess we should just say, stay tuned next week. Wait, what's our song?
It's school cafeteria.
Usually we
cafeteria.
cut this out.
Oh yeah, can you help us out? Our next song is School Cafeteria. Stay tuned next week when our song shall be School Cafeteria. Woo! Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah. Tessera, come on out here, give out some free gifts.
Yeah, give out some posters.
Throw them at people. Throw them at that person.
Give out some posters to some people.
Yes. Oh, look.
Woo!
There you go.
Enjoy the solo posters.
It's time for more Christmas music.
Does anybody have anything they'd like to add before we wrap this?
Does anyone have any
up?
questions
Oh.
for us?
Oh, you know what?
Oh, wait,
yeah.
we have a hand up. Gage, what do you got?
Yeah.
What's the worst Star Wars movie in your opinion?
Oh, 100% Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, Attack of the Clones.
100%.
Yeah, Attack
It's
of
not
the
even a
Clones.
joke.
But I still like Attack of the Clones.
Okay,
It's
Attack of
fine.
the Clones
I like
has,
it.
Yeah.
has positives.
It
Yes.
would have been
But
better if it
overall-
was just about Obi-Wan or whatever, whoever.
Well, I feel like there was a lot of missed
going on
opportunities.
a
So, yeah.
detective run.
And also just the acting in it is it's really hard to sit through. The writing, like George Lucas can't write love stories. I'm sorry.
Well, if you guys want to talk more, we're going to keep hanging out. We'd
Yeah.
love
Here.
to talk
What?
to anybody.
Oh, we got Tony over here.
I'm curious now, David, what's your least favorite Star Wars?
All right, do you want me to go from top to bottom?
Sure.
A
Yeah.
New Hope, Last Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, Revenge of the Sith, Force Awakens, Return of the Jedi, Rogue One, Phantom Menace above Rogue One, then Rogue One,
I
then
don't know why you
Solo,
don't like
then
Rogue
Attack
One.
of the Clones.
It's
I
so
like
good.
all the Star Wars movies. Any
Yeah.
of those movies can go up or down 2 notches depending on the day. Attack of the Clones is my least favorite, but I would still rather watch it than not.
Okay.
I
we
think
got-
visually it was a great
Let's
one.
say
Yeah, we got a question over
Okay,
here.
question.
Yeah, we got it.
I asked David this earlier, but how many of you guys are planning to go to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge when that
Oh
Yep.
my gosh. I
Already
wish
on
I
it.
had the time.
For real.
That's gonna be a birthday present.
Well,
Oh.
We'll try and get in there. We'll do a live show from there. We won't
Yeah.
tell them that we are.
Right?
So don't
gosh.
tell them,
Yoda
please.
would be
We
great.
will not
Yoda
even
in
be able to get
Disneyland.
into there,
well,
like to do the show because there's going to be so many people. I love it. Somebody did a picture online where it's like all the promotional
Oh,
videos,
yeah, yeah.
videos, and it's like like 2 people walking towards.
And then the actual,
yeah, and then the
like,
actual
what
thing
it
is just
actually gonna look like?
completely covered
It's
in
just
people.
a massive amount of people, just like